Imagine looking up at the sky and seeing a ghost, a massive machine made of steel and forgotten dreams, returning to a world that had long since buried its memory. Human history is full of strange disappearances, but few stories are as chilling, as debated, and as mind-bending as the mystery of Pan American Airways Flight 914. It is a story that defies the laws of physics and challenges our understanding of time itself. Is it a glimpse into a parallel universe, a glitch in the fabric of reality, or simply one of the greatest urban legends ever told? Today, we dive deep into the flight that took off in one era and landed in another. The date was July 2nd, 1955. The world was a different place. At New York's Idlewild Airport, which we now know as JFK, the sun was shining and the air was filled with the smell of aviation fuel and the excitement of travel. Pan Am Flight 914, a Douglas DC-4, was parked on the tarmac, its silver body gleaming under the summer sun. On board were 57 passengers and 4 crew members. For them, it was supposed to be a routine 3-hour trip to Miami, Florida. Imagine the scene inside that cabin. Men in suits, women in their finest travel dresses, and children holding onto their toys, looking forward to the beaches of Miami. They buckled their seatbelts, listened to the hum of the 4 powerful propeller engines, and watched the New York skyline fade into the distance. Captain Miguel Victor Coury and his co-pilot went through their standard checks. Everything was perfect. The weather was clear. The flight was smooth. But somewhere over the Atlantic, the routine turned into the impossible. 3 hours passed. In Miami, the ground controllers checked their watches. Flight 914 was due to land, but there was no sign of it on the radar. They reached out over the radio. No response. They checked with other towers, thinking perhaps the plane had been diverted due to a sudden mechanical issue. But every tower reported the same thing: silence. As the hours turned into days, a massive search and rescue operation was launched. The Coast Guard and the Air Force scoured every square inch of the flight path. They looked for oil slicks on the water, floating debris, or the flare of a life raft. But the ocean was a vast, empty mirror. No wreckage was ever found. No bodies were recovered. Not a single piece of the Douglas DC-4 ever washed ashore. Eventually, the investigation went cold. The families of the 61 people on board were left with a void that could never be filled. The official report concluded that the plane had likely crashed into the sea, leaving no trace behind. The files were closed, the insurance claims were paid, and the world moved on. Children grew up, governments fell, and the technology of 1955 became the relics of the past. 37 years passed. The year was now 1992. At a small airport in Caracas, Venezuela, the morning started like any other for air traffic controller Juan de la Corte. He was monitoring the modern jets on his radar when he noticed something impossible. A blip appeared out of nowhere. It wasn't following any known flight path. It was moving slowly, much slower than the jet engines of the 90s. Juan looked out the window and rubbed his eyes. Emerging from the clouds was an aircraft that looked like it had been pulled straight out of a history book. It was a Douglas DC-4, a propeller-driven plane that hadn't been in regular service for decades. It looked pristine, its metal skin reflecting the Venezuelan sun, as if it had just come off the assembly line. The radio crackled to life. The voice on the other end was frantic, filled with a strange, old-fashioned formal tone. "Where are we?" the pilot asked. Juan, trying to remain calm, replied, "You are approaching Caracas, Venezuela. What is your flight number and destination?" There was a long silence, filled with static. Then the voice came back, trembling. "We are Pan American Airways, Flight 914. We were scheduled to land in Miami at 9:55 a.m. on July 2nd, 1955. The control room went deathly silent. The staff looked at each other in disbelief. 1955? That was 37 years ago. Juan felt a chill run down his spine, but he had a job to do. He cleared the plane for landing, and the vintage aircraft touched down on the modern runway with eerie smoothness. Ground crews rushed toward the plane, but they were told to keep their distance. Through the cockpit window, they could see the pilot. He looked young, too young to be flying a plane from 1955 in the year 1992. The passengers were visible through the small porthole windows, their faces pressed against the glass. They didn't look like ghosts. They looked like terrified people, staring at a world they didn't recognize. They saw giant jet engines, digital billboards, and ground vehicles that looked like they were from a science fiction movie. Juan spoke into the radio. "Sir, please remain calm. Ground crews are approaching, but I must tell you, today is September 9th, 1992. The pilot's reaction was instant. He screamed through the radio, "No, stay away. We are leaving now." He began to taxi the plane back toward the runway. Ground security tried to block the path, but the pilot didn't stop. He turned the old DC-4 around, pushed the engines to their limit, and took off into the sky. The airport staff watched as the plane climbed higher and higher. It stayed on their radar for exactly 3 minutes, and then, just as it had appeared, it vanished. No signal, no blip, nothing. It was gone. In the aftermath, investigators searched the runway where the plane had briefly sat. They found something that shouldn't have been there. It was a small pocket-sized calendar from the year 1955. It was in perfect condition, not a single yellowed page. So, what really happened to Flight 914? If you look for the official records today, you will find that skeptics and researchers have traced this story back to its source. It was first published in 1989 by a tabloid newspaper called The Weekly World News, known for its sensational and often fabricated stories. There is no official record in the Civil Aviation Archives of a Pan Am flight disappearing in July 1955, but even with the evidence that this might be an urban legend, the story refuses to die. Why? Because it taps into our deepest fears and wonders. We want to believe that time isn't as solid as we think. We want to believe in the possibility of time slips, natural anomalies, where the past and the future collide for a brief, terrifying moment. For decades, people have debated the what if? What if those 61 souls are still up there, trapped in a loop, forever flying between 1955 and a future they cannot comprehend? What if they are the lucky ones, never having to see the world grow old, while we are the ones left behind in a reality that moves too fast? Whether Flight 914 was a masterpiece of fiction or a genuine rift in the fabric of our universe, it remains one of the most haunting tales in aviation history. It serves as a reminder that the sky is not just a place for travel. It is a vast blue mystery that still holds secrets we may never truly understand. The next time you are at an airport, watching the planes disappear into the clouds, take a moment to wonder, are they going to their destination? Or are they about to embark on a journey through time? What do you believe happened that day in 1992? Was it a clever hoax? Or did a ghost flight really touch down in Caracas? Let us know your theories in the comments. And if you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, don't forget to like and subscribe for more mysteries that defy explanation. Until next time, keep looking at the skies.